Hello. So I spent my life, most of my life, feeling unheard, misunderstood. And there's a reason for that. Now, I can think of this time where it was so pronounced, where I spoke up for myself and shared what I was feeling, and it was dismissed. Like I never even said it. I was in this leadership training, and I had literally raised my hand and they asked me to share whatever we were talking about. And I said that I had felt like whenever I shared ideas and whenever I wanted to present something, that it was just completely dismissed, that it was unheard. And then literally they were raising hands for what's the word I'm looking for ideas about what we should do next, what the group should do next. I raised my hand and I entered my idea. And then two other people shared their ideas. And then the person leading the group said, okay, so we're going to choose between idea 1 and idea 2. But my idea wasn't in there at all. And I literally, like 2 minutes before, I had just said how my experience was that people didn't listen to me, that they didn't pay attention to my ideas. And I was so upset because here I was sharing this vulnerable thing that felt super vulnerable at the time. And they literally did exactly what I was saying always happened to me that hurt. But that wasn't the first time that I felt like that. I felt like that all throughout my life. I had wanted to say something and it was dismissed, it was ignored, it was misunderstood, misconstrued. So this pattern of this thing kept happening over and over and over. And so we can look at our life, and when there's a pattern, when something keeps happening over and over, we can blame it on everybody else, which I did for a long time. Blamed like nobody pays attention to me, nobody listens to me, nobody understands me. Or we can figure out that, oh, what's the common denominator here? Every time this happens, what's the one thing that's 100% consistent? And that 100% consistent thing is me. So there's the reason why nobody heard me, nobody listened to me. But I couldn't see it for most of my life. So let's backtrack and go back to my childhood, because this stuff often stems from childhood, these mental patterns that we have, these patterns that keep repeating in our life. They show up in different ways, but again, there's still the same patterns. So for me, when I was 6 years old, I was auditioning. Everybody in the music class had to audition for the solo of the singing thing. And I loved to sing. I mean, I used to walk home and sing about everything I saw. Oh, there's a bluebird sitting on the tree. The fig fell on the ground. The car drove by. Like, that was how I would I would sing about everything. Loved it so much. And so I sang my heart out, and the music teacher just looked at me and was like, no, you will not do that again, and proceeded to shame me in front of the whole class. So I learned to not sing out loud anymore. I shut down my voice in that way. And when I was growing up, I would ask questions because I was a curious kid. All kids are curious, right? We want to know, we want to understand. And I would ask questions, but I would always get in trouble for asking questions. So I would shut down my voice. And then when I was 7 years old, I was babysat by a man, my mom's boyfriend at the time, and he kept getting drunk. He kept asking me to get more beers from the fridge. I was upset. I knew, like, hey, this person's supposed to be watching me. I was a pretty responsible little kid because my mom wasn't paying a lot of attention. And so I had to take responsibility for myself. A lot of people in Generation X know this, right? The generation of the latchkey kids. But so here's this man getting really drunk, and I didn't like it. So I told him off. I was like, look, you're supposed to be the responsible one here, babysitting me and taking care of me, but you're getting super drunk. And then later that evening, he sexually assaulted me. And so my little mind linked the two, expressing my voice, standing up for myself, speaking my truth, results in this really bad thing that happened. I thought it was all my fault. And when you're little, what we do is we tend to think that everything that happens is a result of what we do or who we are. What we do, what we say, what we think, and who we are. And because of that, we take things very personally. And so I took that sexual assault very personally, like it was about me. Like it was because if I hadn't said those things, then that thing would have never happened. And so I'm sure a lot of you out there have these times where you spoke up and some bad consequence happened. Maybe it wasn't, quote, that bad, but it doesn't matter. If you spoke up, if you used your voice and you were shut down repeatedly, time and time again, you probably developed some of the problems that I did, which I'm going to talk about here. So my little mind was like, oh, standing up for yourself results in terrible things happening to you. Singing and expressing my joys results in terrible things happening to me. Asking questions results in terrible things happening to me. So I learned, like, let's just not do that. Let's not express ourselves. Let me keep my voice small. Let me only ask questions when it's absolutely necessary. And let me make sure that I frame it in the way that will be most accepted and I won't get in trouble. So every time I tried to speak, I was speaking through this lens of what do I say to make sure that nothing bad will happen? And because of that, I overcomplicated things. I over-explained. I waited till it was too late to actually speak up. I would speak with a very low voice. My voice used to be a lot higher. I don't know if I can do my old voice. I listened to some of my early podcasts. I'm like, who is that person? My voice doesn't sound grounded in my body because it wasn't. Because I had learned that using my voice and expressing myself came with consequences. And so little by little, I used my voice less and less. And when I did try to use it, there was so much fear inside of me that it came out junky. It came out not clear. And it came out softer. And I shrunk my presence when I used my voice. So I would say to myself, well, I said the thing. I just asked for the thing. Why didn't anybody hear me? Why didn't they understand what I meant? Because I was in such a state of fear when I was speaking up that I was the smallest possible version of me. So imagine a mouse, right? A mouse is making its noise, and if you're real close to it, you might hear it, but the noise a mouse makes is very small. And in the grand scheme of a room of many other noises, you're probably not going to hear the mouse. If a lion is roaring next to a mouse, you're definitely not going to hear the mouse. And so because I was speaking from this mouse type place and I was unable to really articulate what I thought and what I felt, because historically, if I said what I thought, it was dangerous, or I was going to get in trouble, or there was going to be consequences. And so what I didn't realize until I started healing and reclaiming my voice little by little and neutralizing that fear those old fears of speaking up and the consequences of what could happen if I really step into the truth of who I am and the internal aspects of what's really there. Once I started healing and neutralizing that stuff, people started to listen to me. People heard what I said. They understood what I said, and I didn't have to explain it, and I didn't have to say it 20 fucking times. They heard it the first time. If I was talking to somebody and I didn't have to remind them about it a million times. I remember with boyfriends of mine, like, oh, don't forget, we have this thing on Tuesday. Don't forget, we have this thing on Tuesday. Don't forget, we have this thing on Tuesday. And they would still fucking forget because they couldn't hear me because there was no presence of me behind my voice. It was just this hollow self, this hollow meek mouse. Don't forget, we have that thing on Tuesday. Don't forget, we have that thing on Tuesday. And so what I've discovered in the healing and the reclaiming is that it's different. When people hear you, it feels different, it lands different. And here's the most important thing. It doesn't fucking matter if you hear me. I'm okay whether you do or you don't. And that's a big aspect that came with the healing. So before, I would sit there and I would be like, oh my God, internally, like, why didn't they hear me? What's wrong with me? Why are they such a jerk, right? I'd either blame it on them or make it there's something wrong with me. And that was this internal dialogue. But if you don't hear me, you don't hear me. I can speak up, I can say it again, but it's not personal anymore. It doesn't feel personal. It's not about me. I'm not stuck back in that child self where when you're young and you literally think everything is about you. So something to think about when you're taking things personally is you might be looped back into one of those childhood wounds when you subconsciously think everything is about you because you haven't really detached, right? You're still sort of this aspect of oneness and like everything, the world revolves around you and you don't have that understanding yet. But when you're taking things personally as an adult, oftentimes it's because you're having a wound that happened when you were a kid that's being triggered. And so you're brought back to that feeling of, oh, this is about me, when it's not. People do what they do. What people do is about themselves. Like, as much as I love to come on here and express myself and talk to you all, and hopefully you get some value from the things that I say. I mean, that is my dream. That is my hope. But I express myself because it's for me, because it fills me up to express myself, to share. And the benefit of that, when I'm filling myself up, is some people actually get some value and some benefit from it. But that place of reclaiming my voice really, really became much more solid when I realized at the deepest level that what that man had done to me, what the reason for him sexually assaulting me when I was 7 had nothing to do with me. When I really could finally separate that me using my voice wasn't the thing that made him do anything. That he did what he did as an impetus of what was going on inside of him. And that's the thing that we all need to understand, is that people do what they do as a result of what's going on inside of them. And so when you don't feel heard or you don't feel seen and you don't feel understood, a big part of it is because, like, the way people are responding is partially because of the way of what's going on within them. Part of it is because you might not be showing up as your true self. You might be showing up as that meek little mouse. It's not the truth of who you are. But the other aspect is whatever is going on with them plays a role as well. So there are some people who doesn't matter how loud you roar like a lion, they're not going to hear you. And that's okay. And you have to understand that's not about you. That when you can let it go, that's what makes you feel free. But when you're operating from this fear or this need, like this need, I need to be heard, I need them to see me, I need to be understood, which comes from old wounds. When you're operating from that place, it's less likely that you'll be heard, but you'll also be wrapped in emotions that are not about the current situation. When you need that from outside of you, you're not filling yourself up from inside of you. And one of the things that I did most of my life was I needed that external validation. I needed that external validation to prove that I wasn't invisible, to prove that I actually existed, that I mattered. But healing throughout the years, healing these wounds and doing what I do with my clients so they can shorten that time. They don't have to take as long as I did. It lets you know that you matter without having to have somebody validate it. So then you start to really understand that it doesn't matter if they don't hear you. You hear you. You know what's right for you. You can feel what's right for you. You know that what other people are doing is about what they're doing. It's not about you. And in that, there comes freedom, like internal freedom. And the thing that people don't realize is that your internal freedom is the foundation for creating everything you want in your life. Because if you're not internally free, if you feel like you're taking things personally, if you feel hurt, if you feel like your mind is always spinning, if you feel like you have anxiety, if you're struggling with a lot of emotion, if you're feeling disconnected from who you are, from the soul version of who you are, you don't have the foundation to hold the good health, the great relationships, the business, the finances, the career. Because even if you get those things, maybe you get in the best shape of your life, but you're constantly beating yourself up. I heard this story recently about David Goggins, and those of you who know him, he's like super fitness guy, super like motivated, with like does like just gung ho. But one of the ways that he motivates himself is like looks in the mirror and says, "You're fat, you're fat, you're fat, you're fat." And I heard this story third person, so I'm not sure. I didn't hear this story out of his mouth. So if I'm wrong, I apologize. But anybody who's doing that is doing this from this place of no mental and internal freedom. So you're not motivated and living from this place of feeling good. You have to stir up negative emotions to actually motivate you to do something. And that's not a sustainable way to live long term. I mean, there are plenty of people who do it, but I don't know about you, but I want a life full of peace and joy and freedom and fun and excitement and dancing and singing and all of the things that feel good to me. I don't want to have to look in the mirror and go, "You're fat, you're fat, you're fat," to motivate me to go to the gym or to go to a yoga class. So even if you're in the best shape of your life, if that's the way you feel and that's the way you have to maintain it, there's no joy in that. Same with career. If you have to be like, "Oh my God, I have to have the most money and the biggest buyout of my company ever, and I have to make it to the top and become the president or the CEO of the company, and I have to, because I have to prove that I'm worthy." So la 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 la. Like you're operating from all these wounds. There's no internal freedom in that. So yes, you might have a lot of success, but you don't feel good. You're not happy, as they say. Like, you're only happy for that moment when you reach the goal and you get that dopamine hit, but then you're off to chase the next dopamine hit. It becomes hollow and it becomes like running on a hamster wheel. Relationships are the same way. So if you fall in love with somebody and you're in this great relationship, but you're constantly worried about, if I fuck up, they're going to reject me. If I fall, like, I let them see that part of me that I keep hidden, then they're going to leave me. If you're constantly worried about that, there's no freedom in that. So people try to make money and have great businesses and have relationships and find love and have physical like health because they're looking for freedom and peace and joy and love and all of those things. But without the foundation of the mental and the emotional freedom, it's just all empty. It doesn't feel good. And so I had lots of points in my life where I had a lot of the things that I wanted, but it didn't feel good. It didn't feel right. And so I just kept chasing and kept chasing, and I kept chasing all these external things. And I didn't know that what I needed inside was that mental freedom. I needed that mental freedom to be able to speak my voice. And in business, of course, like, you need to be able to speak your voice. You need to be able to ask for the sale. The funny thing is, when I used to have sales calls, the only calls I would close were when I just assumed that the person wouldn't actually buy, was because I was just like, oh, they're not going to buy. So I'd feel free to actually say what I wanted. I wasn't running it through this filter of like, oh my God, I have to say the right thing. I have to be safe. I have to make sure they like me and blah, blah, blah. I just was actually who I was, and going back to being heard. So when I was running it through the filters of trying to say the right thing, I couldn't articulate the value of what I brought to the table, which is what anybody needs to do in sales. But when I wasn't worried about that, when I was just operating from who I was, the value was clear and people bought. And so being able to really be who you are and have that mental freedom so that you're not in the back of your head going, oh my God, what do they think? Are they going to do it? Are they not going to do it? Like, that's going to give you so much freedom in business and allow you to create more lasting results. And the same, of course, in relationship. If I'm on a date and I'm just being who I am and I'm not worried about, I'll have all this mental chatter about like, what are you going to think? Are they going to reject me? All of this stuff. Then they actually are getting to know who I am. And if they want to see me again, then it's great because they actually know and connected to who I am. There was a connection there. But if I was trying to put on this facade of who I needed to be, who I thought I needed to be, then even if they liked me and we went on dates, and eventually if I let them see the real me, then I would risk losing it. But it's a totally different animal when you're just operating from the truth of who you are. You have that freedom. You don't have to sit there and run everything through 18 filters of how many ways that you have to be perfect and make it right and do it the right way before anything comes out of your mouth. And so when you're thinking about not being heard, not being seen, I mean, you're not even present. How could you're not even there because you're thinking about all the things that could possibly happen in the future based on stuff that you've probably experienced in the past. And so you're not actually able to be present and communicate, be heard, be seen, none of those things. Okay, that was a long rant about those things. One of the things, though, that I've learned about learning to use my voice and being able to do it in a way where it doesn't matter whether you hear me or not, is that it just feels good. To me, it's fun. I don't have that mental chatter anymore. I don't have that emotional fear bubbling up. And don't get me wrong, sometimes I'm like, oh, nervous, I'm stepping into something new. That happens, but it's so small in comparison. It's like this much mental chatter instead of like the expansive of like a whole city of mental chatter in my head, like a whole city that has as many people as New York City in it in my head, because that's what it used to feel like all the time. And it didn't matter how well anything was going, there was just no fucking peace. But it's a beautiful thing to have peace now. And I wish that for each and every one of you. If you want a little, you want to jump into something that would give you a little more peace, ask me about my Firewalk event I have coming up in January. And I have some other things that are available as well, too. You can ask me about coaching if that sounds good to you. But for today, I wish you a clear mind. I wish you emotional ease. And I wish you freedom and peace. I'll see y'all later.